العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله محمد وعلى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. In Surah Baqarah, the second surah of Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Ibrahim and Ismail raising the walls of Kaaba. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ الْقَوَاعِدَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Verse 127 رَبَّنَا وَاجْعَلْنَا مُسْلِمِينَ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمًا لَكَ. Allah, make us submitters to you, Muslim in this, submitters to you. وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمًا, and in our progeny, a whole ummah who is Muslim. Okay? A whole ummah who is Muslim. وَرَنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ رَبَّنَا وَبَعِثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْهُمْ. From the same ummah that he is referring to. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِكَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Okay? These verses up to 129 are the prayer of Ibrahim and Ismail to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what you see in this prayer is that, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, accept us and make us of those who submit. Okay? Rabbana taqabbal minna is first, accept us. Innaka anta as-sami'ul 'alim. Rabbana waj'alna muslimina lak, and make us of those who are submitters to you. Two of us. He is. Okay. Definitely he is. Okay. But the status goes higher and higher and higher. Okay. For example, he is asking, Rabbana taqabbal minna. Okay. Innaka anta as-sami'ul 'alim. Rabbana waj'alna muslimina lak wa min dhurriyyatina ummatan muslimatan lak. وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا, and forgive us. Is it this forgiving of sins? No. Tawbah, many times, is the acknowledgement of one's dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not asking only forgiveness of sin, but acknowledging one's dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that nothing would have been possible if the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not there. This must be borne in mind. Many times we think that, only those who sin should make tawbah. Tawbah is also the acknowledgement of our own weaknesses, which, because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have been changed in its strength. Okay? So these are the du'as. First dua, accept what we have done, which means raising Al-Kaaba, okay, when he was. There is a story that is so much loving and caring by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of his prophets. When he was raising the wall, okay, he wanted to raise it higher, and his height was not that high, normal heights. So he told his son Ismail to bring a stone, okay, on which he would get up to raise the wall, and then the ceiling. Ibrahim brings a stone. Ismail brings a stone, and Ibrahim mounts the stone and raises the wall. Now he is at one position. The stone moves with him. Till he reaches all four walls. It's completed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy makes the stone malleable so that his footprints on the stone. And that is the Maqam Ibrahim, where you are told to make 2 rakat prayers. Yes. Okay. So then after that building, after seeing, he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, accept my deeds. Rabbana taqabbal minna. And that's the dua that we recite after every prayers. Okay? Rabbana taqabbal minna. That's the dua of Ibrahim and his son Ismail. Okay? So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts. Of course, and make us, both of us, of those who are submitting. Okay? Muslimin lak. Wajalna, what else? Okay, our progeny and ummah, okay, a community, okay, of believers, okay, a community of believers, okay, okay. Warana manasikana. After the Kaaba is built, okay, now the manasik of Kaaba, what has to be done? Okay, how the Hajj is to be performed. That is the manasik. That's why still we use the word manasik. Okay. It doesn't mean that he was not praying before. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Okay. He was. But now, this structure, okay, house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been rebuilt. And the manasik have to be specified. But what I know? Okay. Innaka anta at-tawwabur rahim. Rabbana wa bathhim rasulan minhum. And from this progeny that we have talked about, make a prophet. A prophet should emerge from this. Yatlu alayhim ayatika. And the prophet would reveal to them, narrate to them your revelations, your signs. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and would teach them what? The book, knowledge of book, and wisdom. وَيُزَكِّهِمْ, and would purify them. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Immediately after this, the verse in Surah Baqarah talk about Yaqub alayhi salam also. Who is Yaqub? He is the son of Ishaq. This is with Ismail and now with Ishaq. Okay. If you look at the verse number 130, and then verse 31, 131 and 132. वस्सा बिहा इब्राहीम बनी व याकूब या बनैया इन्नल्लाह अस्तफ़ा लकुमुद्दीन वला तमूतुन्ना इल्ला व अंतुम मुस्लिमून इन कुंतुम शुहदा हज़र याकूब अल मौत इज़ क़ाल लिबनीहि मा ताबुदून मिन बादी क़ालू नअबुदु इलाहक व इलाह आबाइक इब्राहीम व इस्माईल व इसहाक़ इलाहन वाहिदा व नहनु लहु मुस्लिमून. Okay. So this progeny is a progeny of pious people. Okay. Both through Ismail and through Ishaq. Okay. So the concept that there was idol worship and idolatry throughout is not true concept. Okay. Is not true concept. Okay. Much has to be written and said on it. Okay. But briefly, for about 1300 years, okay, the progeny of Ismail, okay, remain Muwahhideen after Ismail. That is 1600 years before Christ, just to look at the calendar. Because Ismail was around 1800 before Christ. It's a long story, but I'm not going to go in all details, but this was the Muslim Ummah that remained, okay, constant for almost 1300 years. From 1800 before Christ to 600 before Christ, something like that. Okay. How did the idol worshipping start? Now the next question is that if this was the Ummah of Ismail, of Ibrahim, okay, the Ummah that was supposed to be pious one, how does this start? Okay. There are certain rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made. Okay. And those rules put a lot of emphasis on one's own character, one's own submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. It is not who you are son of or daughter of that would make that difference. That should come from your character, how believing you are. I think I gave you this example earlier about Prophet Ibrahim's own father and his two uncles. Okay. Prophet Ibrahim's father was Tariq and he was a Muslim. From the descendants of Nuh alayhi salam. Sam, the Semite, the word that you get from. One of his uncles was Azar, a real uncle, paternal uncle. He was Azar. And who was Azar? He used to fashion the idols. Idol worshipper who used to make idols. The third brother was the grandfather of Lut. Again, a Mu'min. So between two brothers, there was a brother who was idol worshipper. Not only worshipper, idol maker, Azar. With whom Ibrahim is argued in Quran, you have seen those verses, and he has pleaded him to become a believer, and he refuses, those things. Okay. So you see that it's the same progeny, but some have accepted the truth, and some have not. So dua is there, okay, no doubt about it. the ingredients are put in, the seed is there. Okay? But if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't accept it, Allah is not going to make decisions for you. No, He does not. Okay? He's going to leave it to you to make that decision. Okay? Ismail, Allah Nabi alayhi salam, died a believer. Okay? His progeny was a believer. Later on, what happened as they multiplied, relations with other tribes, conquest by tribes, threw them off from Mecca. And Mecca became the center of tribes from Yemen who introduced idol worship there. Hubal was the first idol that was installed there. And then other tribes, they don't have it. But just, to connect things, if you fail to accept the dictate of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you won't be saved. Okay? Ibrahim's grandfather was Nahor. Okay? Nahor had 3 sons, as I said, Tarikh, Azar, and Haran. Okay? Tarikh was the pious one who died when Ibrahim was a few months old, most probably. Okay. Azar, who was the idol worshipper, and Haran, who was the grandfather of Lut. And Lut was a believer, a prophet. Haran also. Okay. Now there's a question that comes that when Ismail died, probably 1850 or 1840, something like that, years before Christ, 1840 before Christ. Okay. Was there any prophet after him there? After Ismail? Okay. No. There's no prophet after him in his progeny. Ishaq died in 1830, a few years, apart of his brother Ismail. Okay. But his progeny continued, okay, and the prophets in his progeny. For example, Yaqub's son Yusuf, then throughout, okay, till we reach Musa, and eventually Isa, Moses, and Jesus. Okay. So that period from 1840 before Christ to year of Christ, okay, is about 1500 years. Okay. In this 1500 years, okay, the progeny of Ismail did not have any prophet. Okay. But progeny of Ishaq did have prophet. So now, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leave people without guidance there? No. That's the next question. Then what? So now you have awliya and awsiya. Okay. These are the people who guided. Okay. Okay. They are not prophets. For example, our Prophet ﷺ has passed away. Okay. Worldly life is over. His spiritual life is there. Okay. To me, his physical life is also there. Okay, but we don't see him. Okay. He has passed away. After him comes Aimma alayhim salam. Okay. His progeny, his Ahlul Bayt, Imams of Ahlul Bayt. The 12th Imam is an occultation. Okay. Has the guidance stopped? No. Guidance never stops. That is the key. Guidance never stops. Guidance is always there. Okay. So even if there was no prophet, okay, guidance was there. Okay. Now, if the guidance was there, who were the guides? Okay. These were the same people who were from the progeny of Ismail. Okay. Same people who are from the progeny. If you look at that chart, you will find, right from the top, okay, till the Prophet himself. Okay. You have leaders who in the history have been quoted as portraying Islam. For example, Abdul Muttalib, for example, Hashim, okay. For example, Adnan, all these have been portrayed as uttering words of Tawheed, even though the atmosphere around them was changed. How? I said a tribe from Yemen, Bani Khaza'a came. Okay, they were able to overtake Bani Ismail and Bani Jarham, the other tribe. Okay, and took over Kaaba and put the idols there. General people followed. Okay, general people followed. Qusay, one of the descendants of Adnan, okay, married in that tribe and took over once again because Banu Khaza''s leader had only one child, a female child. Okay, Qusay married her, okay, and so took over the leadership of Kaaba. Okay, when he was taking the leadership, he announced that I believe in only one God. Okay. And I don't worship him. With idols. La sharik lahu. The concept of idols, as it was introduced, had a few underpinnings. One was that these idols are not gods, okay, but they are facilitators towards God. Okay. Shufa'a, Quran has used the word Shufa'a. Okay. They said that these are not gods. They were not so stupid that they would build something by their own hands and they said this is God. Okay. So that was not the concept. The concept was that these are the facilitators. Or these are the images. Okay. Or these make us closer to God. Whatever words you want to put it. Okay. A person who has built it himself is going to regard his own build as God. Okay. So in Quran, we come to see that people are asked, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells his prophet to ask for that who provides you sustenance? Okay. Who provides you sustenance? Okay. Qul man yazakum min as-sama wal arz. Okay. من يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي من يدبر الأمر. All these questions the Prophet has been told to ask. Surah Yunus, 10th Surah of Quran, verse number 31st. If you ask these questions to them, they would say, فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهِ. They will say Allah. Okay. One who gives the sustenance from the sky and the earth, one who brings life from death and death from life, and who controls existence. سيقولون الله. In Surah Ankabut, 29th Surah of Quran, verse number 61. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ لَا يَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. Same answer. In the same surah, 29th, verse 63. وَإِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ نَزَّلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا لَا يَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. If you ask them, who pours from the skies water, rainfall. فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, that gives life to the earth after death, they will say Allah. Now this is happening at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. These are questions, okay, being asked, and who is answering them? These mushrikeen. Surah Luqman, 31st Surah of Quran, verse number 25. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ لَا يَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. Same answer. Okay. If you were to ask them who created the heavens and the earth, they will say Allah. The same question in Surah Zumar, 39th Surah of Quran, verse number 38. Then Surah Zukhruf, 43rd Surah of Quran, verse number 87. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ. If you ask them who created you, لَا يَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ, they will say Allah. So where is that idol worshipping in that sense that people talk about? These are all Quranic verses, okay?
But some of these are at the time of Prophet, or all these verses are from the time of Prophet?
All these verses that. Surah Al-Mu'minun, 23rd Surah of Quran, verse number 84. قل لمن الأرض ومن فيها إن كنتم تعلمون. Okay. For who is the earth and whatever is in it, if you know. The answer in the next verse is 85. سيقولون الله. They say Allah. Then verse 86. قل من رب السماوات السبع ورب العرش العظيم. Who is the Rab? Rab has been translated, not very fairly, Rab, okay, sustainer, maybe, Lord, maybe, okay. Whatever it is. So I'm going to put the word Rab is there, okay. Kul man Rabb as-samawati wal ard. Kul man Rabb as-samawati as-sab'a. Who is the Rab of 7 skies, 7 heavens? Wa Rabbil Arsh Azim, and the Rabb of the mighty Arsh. So you will say Allah. So the concept of Arsh Azim is also there. when you are asked that question, okay, and you answer Allah, yes, there too. This is the time of the Prophet. Surah Mamnoon, 23rd Surah of Quran, verse 84 through 87. Okay. So when you see all these verses of Quran, okay, so there is a conclusion that there was a group, okay, maybe not in excessive numbers, okay, but a group who believed in the truth of the divine message, okay. Then there was a group who knew the truth of the divine message and they acknowledged it, but they were not willing to accept it. Which are these verses, okay? That they and they were true believers, okay, who were on Din al-Hanif, okay, the progeny of Ismail. Remember, Makkah is not only inhabited by progeny of Ismail, okay, there are others too. Within that progeny, there are differences also. Okay? 12 to 3 tribes within that progeny. Okay? And this tribe, Bani Hashim, from which our Prophet is there, okay, is one tribe that has remained constant. But within them also, for example, we come across a narration, I don't know how authentic that is, that Abu Lahab, who is uncle of the Prophet, okay, he's Hashmi, he's uncle of the Prophet. He goes out when the Prophet starts preaching. He goes out, and Prophet is in the marketplace announcing that believe in one God. Okay, Tuflihu, you'll prosper. And he comes and says, "Oh, he's a liar." Yes. His uncle from the same grandfather. There is a narration that also says that Abbas also accompanied him when he was saying this. Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet. So one uncle is Hamza, one uncle is Abu Talib, and one uncle is Abbas. Well, so it depends, Abbas eventually accepts Islam and he comes to Medina. Okay, he is one of the prisoners who has been captured in the battle. Okay, and he comes to Medina and he accepts Islam. But this incident is the history that when the Prophet ﷺ ordered all doors to be closed in the masjid except his and Ali's door, okay, Abbas was one of those who criticized the Prophet. That you have closed everyone's doors. What of your nephew? Ali was the nephew of the Prophet. Okay? And you left me, your uncle, out. And the Prophet replied, I don't do anything by myself. What I do is the ordain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see, history tells you many things. Okay? History tells you many things. Okay? And those things reflect not only the viewpoints of people, but fundamentally their convictions, regarding issues. For a believer, a word uttered by the Prophet, a deed done by the Prophet, is ultimate, final, and no questions asked. Because Allah's will is shown by the Prophet. Okay? Prophet's action are the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet's words are what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to say. Ma yantiqu anil hawa. He doesn't say. So accusing the Prophet or criticizing the Prophet or commenting on the Prophet, either way, you take it anyway. That you kept your nephew's door open and you knocked down your uncle's. Even if it is an observation, okay, you are not supposed to have that observation. You are not supposed to think about that if you are a true believer. Yeah. A true believer never questions the Prophet, his intentions or his actions. No, his son is the officer of Quran. This is Abbas. Okay? Abdullah ibn Abbas is his son. Okay? Who became, of course, one of the best commentators of Quran and Mufassirin. Okay? That's his son. And who was the Prophet's student as well as the student of Imam Ali al-Islam. Okay? And he is the one that narrates that tradition that Ali sat with him, for the tafsir of Surah Al-Hamd. Okay, from Isha to Tahajjud. Okay, and the tafsir of Bismillah was not complete as yet. And Ali told him, okay, the whole Quran is in Al-Hamd. The whole Al-Hamd is in Bismillah. And the whole Bismillah is the Ba of Bismillah. And the whole of Ba is under that dot. Okay. Al-Nuqta Tat al-Ba. Okay. So there are some who say the tradition is up to here. Okay. And we have narrations that say that Imam Ali said, Al-Nuqta Tat al-Ba. I am that dot under the Ba. Okay. So, of course, Abdullah ibn Abbas is, But once again, Abdullah ibn Abbas, a pious man, Mufassir of Quran, but he comes to Hussein in Mecca and advises Hussein against going to Iraq. Okay. When he heard that Hussein is leaving for Iraq, Abdullah ibn Abbas, same person. Okay. And Hussein says, no, I have to go. Okay. I'm going to let you know, and the dream and things like that, Then it says, okay, if you want to go alone. Don't take the members of Ahlul Bayt with you. Okay. And Hussein says, no, I have to take them. And Hussein took them. What Abdullah was seeing was the apparent. And what Hussein was seeing was after Karbala. It was because of Zainab and Sajjad alayhi salam, that Karbala came to light. Karbala was recognized, okay? And Karbala became permanent imprint on the psyche of Islam. Okay? If these two personalities were not there, Zainab and Sajjad alayhi salam, okay, Karbala would have been an occurrence in the desert covered by sand and nothing else. Okay? Yes, Abdullah ibn Abbas is Mufassir, okay, no doubt about it. A great pious man, okay, and many traditions are narrated from him, okay. Everything is right, but that issue of the prophetic knowledge that was inherited by Hussein is something entirely different. Okay, Allah. Time of Salat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We'll continue inshallah next week. Okay.